I saw the chaos that, I learned later that was a very common thing for a lot of construction companies. It's about helping people first and foremost, like, get organized, like, know your numbers, understand how are you pricing your jobs. Are you taking into account all of your costs? Do you know what all your costs are going to be? Like, if there are going to be exclusions, like, that needs to be documented. Doing a good job of providing a thorough scope of work is so important. If we don't know if we're going to make any money, what's the point in focusing on scheduling the job? When you're doing $2 million in sales, you really need to be focused on building out the right team.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Unconventional Materials. This is episode 8, and I'm super excited about this episode because we have a founder on the show that I honestly wasn't expecting to have on this early, but it is Eric Fortenberry from JobTread. Eric, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Appreciate you having me on.
I am super excited to talk to you on this episode of Unconventional Materials. Eric, I have mentioned it to the audience before, but these are conversations that a lot of general contractors are not usually exposed to. And so I wanted to get somebody like yourself on because you have, the technology background and you have a unique background in the trades as well. And so I wanted to learn a little bit more about yourself, kind of what inspired you to start this construction management software company in the first place, and then get into the nitty gritty of like how it is that you specifically help out builders all across the country and then some. But kind of getting into it, I guess, Dallas based, is that right?
Yep, we're in Dallas, Texas.
And when did you start the company? I think it was 2019, right?
Yeah, so a little bit before that, it was a buddy of mine was running a construction company, and he had asked me to come over and help him figure out how to scale the business. And so that was kind of really my first forte into construction. And I saw the chaos that I learned later that was a very common thing for a lot of construction companies, especially earlier on. But I mean, just like papers, binders, like everything was just like all over the place. We had timesheets walking in the door. The amount of spreadsheets and like Google Sheets that they were trying to use, just like so much like duplicate entry all over the place. Like they really lacked systems and processes. And so my buddy who was running was just like, hey man, can you help me figure out like how do I scale this? Like how do we get organized and get everything all together? And so I was like, well, yeah, let me just go find you some software. I had a previous software company before that, and had kind of a lot of experience managing software. And so I did a deep dive into everything out there, and I was really surprised that it seemed like a lot of the software that had been created was either 10, 15, 20 years old, seemed very kind of archaic, very clunky, hard to use. It was going to take a lot to implement it, or really probably wasn't going to be able to be customized to our needs, or super expensive. And so I struggled after this exercise to make a recommendation for them. And they were like, well, you're a software guy, can't you just build us something? It's like, well, hold on, not necessarily trying to like take on a full-time job here, nor did I think that they would be qualified to maintain it. Didn't want to create just another one-off. But as I thought a lot more about it, I realized that there was a big opportunity here, and ended up coming back and saying, look, I'm willing to do it, but I got 3 conditions. One, I take over as CEO. I need the full authority to right the ship, hire, fire, to put in systems, processes, whatever needs to be done. I need that ability. 2, I would give you 1 year of my time. Every single day I'll come into the office. We will get this thing going. We'll get it back on track. And 3, everything I build is my intellectual property, so that if this has the potential to become my next software company, then after that 1 year, I'd have that option to go and do that. And they agreed, made me partner, CEO, and so I basically built this out of a needs basis. And that was in 2018 is when we built this thing and helped grow that company from 5 to 8 million in sales, and we increased their gross profit by 43%. So I knew it was too good to leave sitting there with them, and end of that year, beginning of 2019 is when I officially started up JobTread.
JobTread was born from a very, you said needs, there was a need for it, right? So it was born from a place of necessity. The company that you were with, from my understanding, it sounds like a lot of general contractors, a lot of builders across the country are still currently in the same position that the company that you were working with was at when you first started there. So I guess how has the transformation with JobTread, the evolution of the company, how have you been able to impact business owners just like that, Eric?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's about, helping people first and foremost, like get organized, like know your numbers, understand how are you pricing your jobs. Are you taking into account all of your costs? Do you know what all your costs are going to be? Like, when I first started focusing on the estimating side, like I was just like, how in the world can we not hit our target profit margin? Like, I think some of my original advice is like, you guys might as well go to Vegas and roll the dice. Like, it was a total crapshoot. And so when I got into it though, and I started really trying to understand that, I found that, as I suspected, there's a lot of numbers being pulled out of thin air. Yeah. And then, literally just if they did come up with a cost and they would just use markup. So let's say they, we were trying to target a 30% profit margin on every job. Well, they were just marking it up 30%. Well, 30% markup is only going to get you a 23% profit. And so we're literally shooting ourselves in the foot right out of the gate. And so like, I think it takes getting organized and understanding how are you pricing your jobs and making sure that you're building out a budget. Like, you need to have a good financial understanding. If you are walking into a project and every one of your jobs you're having to custom bid those jobs, like you can't afford to miss cost. And if you are going to not include some things, then that needs to be documented. We literally, like, it was a bunch of handshake deals. Nobody knew what was agreed upon, and so like we couldn't even use change orders because we don't even like know what was included and not included. And so like, if there are going to be exclusions, like that needs to be documented. Doing a good job of providing a thorough scope of work is so important. And that, like, just that transition alone right there to, instead of making up numbers and using markup, we now had a budget tool where we could start documenting what is included in this job, using margin to calculate our price, having very thorough, proposals and contracts written, and then we can now hand off the job to our project managers, and we could then, execute against that. Like, we had a plan of action versus just like, hey, this customer agreed to go do this job, go figure it out, and they're like, what in the world, what is this? I think it really helped us to get organized and streamline that whole process. And so, I'd say kind of the estimating is one big piece. The next big piece is really like focusing on like the operations and just like, the scheduling. Like, our guys, like, they had no idea what they were going to be doing, today or the next day until they got a phone call or a text. And so, like, I think by having a system in place to help us make sure that we are, properly scheduling in advance, who needs to be where, what crews are going to be working on what jobs, like, that allowed us to start getting much farther ahead on the scheduling aspect so that we could better, figure out when we can do things. We could give the customer, more like transparency, like, hey, it looks like we're not going to be able to start, for another 3 weeks, but once we get into it, it'll be, X number of weeks after that. Like, having that in place really helped us to figure out how we could go from just managing a couple jobs at one time, to dozens of jobs at the same time. And job costing, man, like, we were totally like just, again, we were very disconnected, in the field to the back office. And so, bills were coming in, we just, back office just basically was paying them. They had no idea if that was the right amount, if that was the right job. And when I finally dug into like the AR, the AP, like, it was just like, man, we were being double billed, we were overbilled, we had materials on the wrong job, like total chaos. And so like, it was like death by 1,000 cuts. Yeah. So again, I think organizing all of this information into one place helped us to really start to better manage all of the job from how we sold it to how we ran it and the scheduling to the job costing, the vendor billing, making sure that we're paying the correct amounts, and then obviously getting paid, sending out invoices. If we didn't get paid, like, we just kept working and we kept going, and like nobody even knew. Like, we racked up like hundreds of thousands of dollars of AR because the back office sent the invoice and she assumed that the field people were in communication and knew that we didn't get paid. Well, they couldn't see in QuickBooks. Like, it's just like, again, total chaos, a lot of disconnected systems here. And so, by pulling this all together, we were able to just get everybody on the same page, working together, rowing in the same direction, and ultimately that was what helped us to grow that business.
That's massive. And it sounds like all this didn't come overnight, right? Like, this was something that I guess, like, putting together a software solution for construction companies in general. I'll speak to the residential side because when we work with GCs, we mainly work with residential GCs, but there are a lot of things that come up in the day-to-day. Like, we may be helping install some sort of a sales process or a sales system for a lot of our general contractors that we work with, Eric, but we tend to find out that, like, wait a second, I think we need to hold the horses on the sales side because we need a better grip on accounting and how things are being tracked numbers wise. And so I guess feature wise within the JobTread dashboard, I have personally, poked around within it as well. But I guess, like, how did you build out each of these features if you knew that there was such a massive need for, all things estimating, job costing, budgeting, scheduling, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately the core of JobTread and really where we started was in the budget. Every job has a budget. A lot of project management software out there, they start with the scheduling aspects, the to-dos, things like that. And it's like, my approach is like, look, if we don't know if we're going to make any money, what's the point in focusing on scheduling the job? Like, we need to start where it all begins, and that's, are we going to make money? How are we going to run this job? What's going to go into it? And so we put that budget together, and then everything else is able to relate back to the budget. So if we need to send out bid requests, they all pull from that budget. If you need to send out proposals, change orders, everything's related back. All of your purchase orders, work orders, bills, invoices, like everything tied back to that. So our starting point was the budget. It was the job financials, and making sure that that is a very cohesive system that you can use. And there's a lot of different functionality in there where, like, if you just need to focus on your invoicing, or if you just need to focus on, your job costing, like, you can create different views that allow you to just sort of focus on those key metrics there, but like it all relates back. And then as we got further along, we could start adding more of the scheduling and the to-dos and organizing all the photos and files, and so there's a whole lot more that sort of has been built on top of all of it. But I think at the core, like, we really wanted to focus on the financials, and I would say that's still is true today. That's definitely our strength.
Massive. And I think that being able to have a tight grip on your financials really allows you to actually start building the infrastructures to scale the company further, and any business really, but I think this especially applies to construction businesses. And so, Eric, you have obviously an ear to what's happening within the construction industry on a day-to-day. I know that you work with, your directors, your C-suites, and so on and so forth, but I feel like you also have a really tight-knit relationship with your community of general contractors. The reason I know this is because you host an event, I think it's called JobTread Connect, and the next one is coming up this coming January. I think it's, I want to say 12th through the 15th. I could be wrong.
January 15th to the 17th. Yep.
All right. See, there, I was wrong. But I think that that's the feedback that I've gotten from the GCs who have attended JobTread Connect, is that it is a community of like-minded general contractors who assemble to really sharpen their iron, so to speak, right? Sharpen their tools and learn the cutting-edge approaches to managing their construction business using a software like yours. So I guess, talk to me a little bit about JobTread Connect. How did that all come about, and what is this whole community element that so many people talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, interesting enough, in my last software company, we hosted this annual user conference, and I remember just like at the beginning of JobTread, we're like, well, should we do it? Like, will anybody come? We don't know. It's like a huge risk because you're having to reserve a big venue and all this stuff. And so, like, at the end of the day, though, we're just like, all right, well, let's see if we can get people willing to devote 2 days of their time to come in and just spend time networking with each other, collaborating on how they're using JobTread, what they like, if they had feedback for our development team, like, we wanted to capture all that, as well as just like giving them some general sales skills, some marketing skills. Like, there's a lot that goes into managing a business. And so, I know as an entrepreneur and as a lot of business owners, like, you're wearing a lot of hats. And so, we wanted to try to have a very kind of cohesive but like balanced, amount of content that could be geared towards anything from sales to project management to the back office, accounting, JobTread or not, we mixed in a lot of that content, obviously, but like, it was just a really neat thing. And so that first year that we did it, we had, I think it was like 175 people came out. We had, I think like 12 or something sponsors. So, we were over 200, total attendees that came out to the event, which was super awesome. Like, just a lot of excitement got built from that. And we're like, all right, well, let's do it again. I think this is going to be an annual event. And so this last year we did it in January again, and we had we were lucky because we had just moved office buildings, and like it was connected to a Westin hotel there, and so we ended up like filling up that entire space. We had like 500 people came out last year, and so this is like again just super exciting to see so many people coming together, willing to take time away from the business to invest in themselves, invest in the tools and the training that they need. A lot of them started though bringing more people on their team. They're like, man, there's too much great content. Like we need to divide and conquer. And then, we also put a lot of focus on making sure that we want this to be an enjoyable event too. So we have social events every night. Everything is included too with your JobTread Connect ticket. You just got to get your own flight or if you're driving in hotel. But we've got, all the food, all the entertainment. Every night we've got activities for people. We, take care of all the transportation. And so, it's a really great event. This year we're expecting to have somewhere between 750 to 1,000 people coming into Dallas, Texas. And I think a lot of the benefit is just people coming together. A rising tide lifts all boats is such a true statement. And so by people being able to work, with other businesses that are similar size, doing similar type work, but again, they're not necessarily next door, their competition. They're able to really open up even more to have those real conversations and those collaborations. And so, the cool thing is even after this last one, we saw some people, they actually formed ongoing kind of meetup groups where every week or every other week, they're still meeting on Zoom, just in small groups to keep collaborating and keep that going. And that was just so awesome to see. But, I think for our event, just again, bringing our partners out, allowing people to meet, potential business partners, or marketing agencies, bookkeepers, insurance, kind of whatever it may be, right? They want to find a coach. There's so many different, ways that we can help connect people to the others that will help them in the community. And then all of this stays online as well, because we've got our JobTread Pros Facebook group where we've got, I think it's almost 4,000, members in there where it's just constant collaboration and people helping each other, asking questions, and that's something that I didn't realize would get built as big and as quickly as it did. But these people really, really love to engage, and my team, we're all about it. At the end of the day, we want to just help people, build the best businesses that they possibly can. And
sure.
I think it's been really cool to see how everyone's helping each other too, though.
Eric, I think that you guys having this ability to connect. We talk about construction business owners and stuff like that, but at the root of it, you use the E word, right? Entrepreneur. And that's what all of us are. We're all just entrepreneurs, and we're trying to create something from, a fragment of an imagination in our minds sometimes. And so I want to kind of speak to the entrepreneurial community within this audience of general contractors that's listening to this, and ask you some questions from the perspective of somebody who, over the last 5 years has been able to accomplish some pretty incredible milestones. I guess for a general contractor listening to this, what would you suggest, if they're past that $2 million mark in revenue? And obviously the question is, the answer is going to range a little bit, but for the general contractor that's past that $2 million mark in revenue, what would you say after they've gotten a couple sales under their belt should be their main focus as it relates to their business?
If we're wearing the business owner, the entrepreneur hat, I think, when you're doing 2 million in sales, you really need to be focused on building out the right team. At the end of the day, you can't do everything and you can't be great at everything. You need to make sure that you have the right people on your team who can help oversee those various functions of your business that needs to be run. And if you don't want to hire someone full-time for it, then you need to find a partner, somebody, another company that you can bring in to help you, do those things. If you're not going to have a full-time marketing person, that doesn't mean that you can't, still do marketing. You just need to find a marketing agency to help you. If you're not going to bring in a full-time bookkeeper, then you need to damn well make sure you've got a CPA, bookkeeper, somebody who's, helping keep track of all that. And so, I'd say kind of at that scale, it really starts to look towards, okay, I need to make sure I've got the right people on this team. I tend to find people either gravitate towards, the sales side or towards the operations side. So, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you need to figure out what are you passionate about and choose. Are you going to go on the sales side? And if not, then you need to make sure somebody is 100% focused on sales. If that's your jam, awesome. Make sure though that you've got somebody on the other side who can manage all the operations and the jobs and project management. It's about kind of setting yourself up for scale, and you've got to understand at that stage, you can no longer do everything yourself. You've got to have a great team in place, and just and focus on, again, systems and processes, standard operating procedures. Make sure that for every single job, how you're going to run it, the things that need to happen, start building that documentation so that when you onboard new people, you're able to train them and not just expect that they're going to figure it out and they can just read your mind. Like, put together the documentation and focus on that would be my advice.
Cloning yourself, right? That's kind of what I hear is like, how can I clone, versions of myself to perform certain, I guess, roles within the company? And it sounds like that's something that you have advised a lot of general contractors to do within their own companies. But I think what's so cool about, personally, that I love so much about JobTread is so much of this cloning yourself is able to be done within the software, right? I'm talking about daily logs, right? If I want to communicate to a team member, for example, that these are the the list of items that were completed on a certain job at a certain day, and if I do bring in, say, a PM, or I do bring in even a lead carpenter or an apprentice or whoever the case is, they have access to all of that information without having to incessantly hit up my phone, call me, text me, email me, and do that whole thing, right? And so I guess, did you create this software with hiring in mind, with recruiting in mind, with team in mind? Or was it just more so like, let's just kind of try and keep the ship running?
No, absolutely. I mean, we had like, I think 10 employees at the time when I took over that construction business. So like, I knew that we needed a way to kind of bring the teams together around, each project, each job. Like, there needed to be a way that we could communicate, we could stay on the same page. Like, early on I asked the guys, like, so what is your biggest frustration? And they're like, well, we show up to the job site and we have no idea what to do. Nobody shared the plans. We have no photos. We don't know what's on the scope of work. Like, and so that was their biggest frustration. It's like, wow, like, okay, because like, the sales guy, he had all that information, but somehow it didn't get shared with the team. And so like, again, like so much of construction, it involves, coordination and collaboration and keeping people on the same page. And so that's where, like, I think just having one place to organize everything for a job is so helpful. And again, though, like, everything is team-based here. Like, very, very few. I mean, I guess you got solo owner operators who are selling the job and doing the build. Like, but like, as you grow your business, you're gonna grow the number of people that are gonna get involved with you, whether they're all employees, whether they're trade partners, subcontractors. Like, it was so important that everybody be able to have that common place to share information and collaborate.
That right there, I kind of want to double click on a little more, because the flip side of that is the frustration that I've also heard, and we got to talk about this, because I feel like this is a really unique opportunity for you, Eric, to speak to this, because I speak to it myself on a weekly basis when I work with my GCs all across the country. But when I talk about, introducing a software like JobTread into, a general contractor's business, one of the first things that I hear from all of them is, I don't know if our guys are going to be on board with something like this, right? It's like the onboarding process. It's getting them familiarized with it. It's like downloading things on their phone and actually, applying it on a day-to-day. And so how have you guys managed? I know you have the trainings and all that stuff online, and you guys have your awesome customer success team that obviously supports the accounts, but how have you guys actually been able to overcome that hurdle for a lot of the field guys who are not as tech savvy?
Yeah, well, we specifically designed it where, like, they don't have to download anything on their phone. They don't have to download the app. If they want to add it to their device, fine. But like, we've made it where if you assign them to a job, or you assign them a task, or send them a work order, whatever it may be, like, all they got to do is click the link in that email that they got. And that will immediately, like, that link is a magic, special, authenticated link that will just automatically take them exactly to where they need to go. Just like any other link that they click on their phone, it's taking them straight to that document or straight to that resource. And so, like, that right there has eliminated so much of that barrier where, so other apps, you might have to, be invited, then you got to download the app, and then you got to set up your username and your password, and then you got to, click on that link or go find it again. Like, we've really tried to streamline that. But beyond that, like, Lev, I think the thing that I would encourage people to do is, like, take the time to sit down with your team. What I did when I was first building this at the construction company, so every single, the very first Wednesday of every month, we had a 2-hour team breakfast. So everybody came in and we spent time talking about the challenges and talking about, how can we improve the business? And so like, when I was first kind of gathering information, that was really helpful. But then when I came back, I was like, all right, guys, look, here's what we've got. And it was a very collaborative effort. Like, if you come at it and say like, hey, you have to use this, log in right here, and like they don't understand the why, you're going to get so much more pushback and resistance. But when you approach it from like, guys, this is going to help us build a better business. This is going to help us win more jobs and put more food on your plate. And so like when they understood the why behind it, they were much more likely to be willing to adopt it. And then look, at the end of the day, like, let's not kid ourselves. There will always be people who are going to believe that they can't use technology, and they're going to just have this natural, resistance to change. And those are the people that, look, you're going to need to sit down with, have a one-on-one, spend a little bit more time making sure that they're comfortable and that they understand how to use it. Create a test job for them. Let them go have their own little sandbox playground where they can, not worry about making a mistake or screwing up. Like, let them practice. And I think that is what will really help you, to help everybody get implemented as a team, versus just, kind of hands off, just go use it, you go figure it out. Like, come together and learn it as a group, go through training together.
Be the change you want to see. That's something that I tell a lot of my guys when they start using a new platform like this, or if they're just like transitioning, to a new bookkeeper and the bookkeeper wants them to do things a certain way, right? It's like, if you want to see the change, you gotta be the first, you gotta be the pioneer to embrace it. Because at the end of the day, when you started this business in the first place, that was the risk that you took on. The risk was that you were going to be the one who's going to pioneer the path moving forward for your company. And so the general contractors that are listening to this, guys, I cannot stress enough that what Eric is building with JobTread is something really remarkable for our industry. It's something that I feel like if GCs embrace, can really be transformative to the way that they operate on a day-to-day basis. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you put it, Eric hasn't paid me a dime to say that. I just really love the product. I love the mission that the company is on. And with that being said, I guess, Eric, I will just kind of quick fire off a couple of questions so we can kind of end off our episode. But I got to ask, man, I mean, you are based out of Dallas. Is it mainly, a certain part of the country as far as companies that you guys work with, or is it all across the nation that you guys find yourself supporting GCs?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's really even going beyond just the U.S. I mean, we've got, definitely, companies coast to coast, using JobTread. I mean, we're almost, I think, over 3,800 construction companies have adopted the system. I think it's something like 25,000 kind of, internal users, and then hundreds of thousands of trade partners are on the system every day. But, largest bulk, call it 90%, are within the United States. Canada is the next largest country for us. But then we got, customers in Australia, the UK, Middle East, Africa. It's kind of Ireland. The list goes on and on. I mean, it's really interesting how so many people have been able to find us, and we're really not even doing that much kind of marketing outside of just showing up at trade shows and our social marketing.
Word of mouth is huge, and that's a big part of how I even came across JobTread in the first place. Yeah. And so, that being said, you guys have tapped into so many different markets, obviously to all different sizes of construction businesses as well. What's the path forward for the company?
Look, man, we just want to make JobTread the standard for construction management. Like that is our vision here. Our mission is to help construction businesses to be able to build much more successful, more scalable and profitable businesses. And in order to be that standard, our goal is to get this into tens of thousands of construction companies' hands, eventually hundreds of thousands of companies. At the end of the day, like I'm very passionate and believe that software should be and can be affordable. And so, we really like our pricing. We've kept it as low as we possibly can at $199 per month, plus $20 per user, and that even tiers down on the additional users once you get over 10 users. But we just feel like this is a very good price point. We want to make sure JobTread stays affordable, and we can get it into as many businesses' hands, because that's how you become a standard.
I totally agree with that, Eric. Last question that I have for you is, you have not gotten to the level that you're at alone. or even if you say you do, I won't believe it. You've had probably an amazing team, and you've had some great mentors along the journey as well. And so, I guess for all the GCs, all the builders that are listening to this, how much have you valued mentorship, and what advice would you give a general contractor who feels like, maybe they're kind of stuck right now? And what would you recommend to them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, again, just like what I said earlier, like building a great team is so important. So, focus on that. If you feel stuck, if you feel like you're just really struggling, like I would encourage you to think about, looking for a partner, or even just finding a coach or a mentor, advisor. Find somebody, find a group of people, find, your tribe. They are out there. There are so many opportunities to get involved and to network with other people going through the same thing. Like, you do not need to go at this alone. I know being an entrepreneur and being, an owner up at the top, like, it can feel like a very lonely position, but like, you don't have to live like that. There are so many awesome coaching groups out there, and communities and user groups, where you can get support from others, and they have been in your shoes, or maybe they're in your shoes right now going through the same thing. I definitely recommend people try to reach out and try to get involved, because you're not alone, and you can learn a lot by being part of something much bigger than just you and your team and your business. Like, finding those coaches who, they know what you're going through. Like, it's hard sometimes as business owners when we don't know what we don't know, and that's why other people can come in and can share their experience and hopefully help you, skip over a couple of those hard knocks that they might have learned, those stumbling blocks. Like, it's a great opportunity. I've got a Builder Stories, my podcast is a great way to just listen to other business owners and the challenges that they have gone through. Like, if you take a little bit of time to invest in yourself and improving your own skills as a leader, and as a business owner, like, I think it'll really help you to be able to take the business to a new level.
A little investment goes a very long way. And so, that being said, everybody, thank you so much for joining this episode of Unconventional Materials. Eric, you were a fantastic guest, and I am super happy that you were able to join us. That being said, for all of you who want to connect with Eric and also with the JobTread community, I know that there is a Facebook group that you guys are more than welcome to join, especially the users of JobTread. If you haven't already checked out the software, if you want to learn how to manage your business that much more efficiently, check out jobtread.com. I will link it below in the description or in the show notes. And then also connecting with Eric personally. LinkedIn is probably one of the best places to do it. Is that right?
I like LinkedIn and Facebook are probably my two go-tos.
I personally hit him up on Facebook and he responded. So if you want to take a chapter from my book and connect with Eric personally, he is super responsive, and just overall been a pleasure to talk with you and connect with you, Eric. JobTread Connect is coming up in January. The details for that will be linked below as well. And for the whole construction community, any last words, Eric?
Hey, look, I would say just you gotta learn to enjoy the journey. Understand that as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, like, it's not going to be easy, but when you can appreciate that you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs, and just enjoy that ride, because it is something that, with a lot of hard work, you can be very, very successful in construction and building a successful construction business that adds a lot of value for your team and for your clients. So just, again, like, thank you for coming, joining and listening to resources like this that Lev's put on, getting more involved with him. But there is a great way for you to keep building your business. So if you get stuck, reach out to whoever it may be, reach out to me, reach out to Lev, reach out to people out there, but just keep going, keep pushing through, and you will be successful on the other end.
Contractors, keep building, and thank you for joining this episode of Unconventional Materials. We'll see you on the next one.